I'm in Mumbai right now, and I've been working from this chair, which I've been deeming the game dev chair. It basically has arms that are so big that I've turned them into my desk. And so I've just been doing all my game dev basically from this chair. There's my paints, there's my laptop, and me in the chair. So, welcome to the game dev chair. To keep things interesting in this game dev process that I'm going through, I decided that I'm going to make each level of my game have an entirely different 2D game mechanic. This way I can keep learning new things, but also keep it interesting for the player instead of just doing the same thing in every level. So I'll have an overarching storyline that connects each level together, but really it's just going to be a bunch of mini games in one, and I think it'll be pretty cool once it all comes together. I don't think I've actually ever explained my intended storyline for this game. The general plotline is that there are a bunch of robots that are invading the peaceful and nature-filled planet of these aliens that live there. So the game starts with level 1, where you play as Bobo in his nature valley, and he ends up encountering a bunch of strange robots on his way home. And when he gets home, he's gonna call up his friend Bronto, who lives in the desert, and be like, hey, Bronto, like, what the heck? Have you seen all these robots? Like, what's going on here? And then Bronto will step outside to check, and that's when the second level will start, and then you'll play as Bronto in the second level in his desert world. And I'm gonna have all these different characters, and they're all gonna be in different parts of the world, all discovering the robots on their own, and then moving together to meet in a central location to discuss the robotic invasion, kind of like the Fellowship of the Ring, with aliens. And then in the second half of the game, they'll all band together to defeat the robots once and for all and save their planet. For this level, I started out by making an enemy spawner that spans the width of the camera view at the top and drops enemies down on the player. And after a few iterations, I was able to get it working nicely. After that, I wanted some new types of the robot bad guys, specifically ones that could shoot at the player. So I took the head of the robot and an arm and kind of like smushed them together and mocked up a little sample robot, and I added a simple gun firing script to his face, and then he would just shoot straight. And I put this new enemy type in the spawner so that they could fall down from the sky, but the result of that was pretty chaotic, but this gave me a new idea. And so I was thinking, what if there is a flying robot in the sky that shot down bullets at the player, kind of like bullet hell, but with gravity and dodging bullets that way. So I workshopped my gun and got some cool patterning done, and I'll explain the general logic of how I built this later in the video. If you're interested, stay tuned. And I have some tutorials that I used there available for you if you're into that kind of thing. After that, I decided it's time to make an actual new robot, so I kind of based it off of the original robot head and like a drone. I painted 4 little helicopter discs, and I, got the head there, and I think it turned out pretty cool. I did my standard thing where I take my photo of my art and I cut it out in Photoshop, and then I did some animation for it. So it ended up being a lot of different animations. Basically, I'd have one animation for it floating up and down, one animation for when it turns to the right to start moving, one animation for when it's moving right, so it kind of like floats up and down while it's moving right, one animation for when it stops moving right, and then one animation for when it starts moving left, one animation for when it's moving left, and then one animation for when it stops moving left. And I put them all together in a nice little animation flow state machine, finite state machine, and voila! There you have it. Also, I decided to just fiddle around with the colors of the desert just for fun, and I made it look like the moon without changing anything other than the color, so that was pretty cool. I'm probably not going to leave it like this for the second level, but it's something I'll definitely use in the future. Welcome to Making Coffee with Julia. This is how you make coffee with Julia. First, what you do is you pour coffee into a magic bullet container. And then after that, you grind the coffee in the magic bullet container. Then you boil some water so that it's hot. And after that, you pour the coffee beans in the pot of water. Then when you're trying to tap the coffee bean container to get the rest out into the water, you drop it in, and it's really satisfying and good. And then you take the pot full of coffee and pour it through a strainer into your cup. And finally, you take your cup of coffee outside and you enjoy the sunrise and live a happy life. So I've built this bullet hell script based on 2 videos that I found on YouTube, and both of them I've linked below. I first found a tutorial that allowed the shooter to file bullets in an array. Every second it would send out a big array of bullets like this. This tutorial basically gave me the fundamental idea of how to separate each bullet by the appropriate angle so that they come out in a nice even spray. And it also incorporated something new to me called object pooling, and I see there's also a Bracky's video about it here too. Basically what happens is that instead of instantiating and deleting the bullet game objects over time, when a bullet dies it becomes inactive and then it's available for the next shot, and it just gets reactivated in the next shot. So it'll only instantiate new bullets if there's none sitting inactive in a pool. Anyways, it's a really useful tool that I now know exists, and I'll definitely be using again. So then I watched this video. It's not really a tutorial, but it's a guy demonstrating basically how his shooting mechanism works. And he demonstrates that he has multiple arrays of bullets where the bullets within an array have a spread or distance between them. And then the arrays themselves have their own spread. This enables the functionality of having like 3 sets of 3 streams or something like that. So I took this structure and basically applied it to the code that I'd already written from the first tutorial. And it's now I have multiple arrays of multiple sets of bullets. So you can see here he's moving this array over. So there's 2 separate arrays, each has 4 streams in it. Basically I have a start and end angle for within the array. So like here the start angle would be this and the end angle would be this. And then based on the number of streams you have within an array, it figures out the step between each stream and then adjusts each bullet's spawn position to be rotated slightly based on each step. And then the bullet has its own script that just tells it to move forward in whichever direction it's pointing. So all it does is spawn bullets in the center, each pointing in different directions, and they just fly out once they've been spawned. Here in the script settings, you can see I have all of the variables that you can set. The bullet array means the number of bullets in an array is 5. So you see there's 5 bullets in that one array, and I have 1 array. The array offset is 180, so that's between the multiple different arrays. Since there's only 1 array, this doesn't apply. But if I upped it to 2, both arrays would be 180 degrees apart. So you'll see once I hit unpause, the same array of bullets will come out the top. So it's 180 degrees in the opposite direction. We've got the fire rate, which is 1, so 1 blast per second. The start angle is -45, so this is 0 here going along the x-axis. Took me a while to figure this out. So -45 would be down here. Okay, this will be -90, and then the end angle is -135, which is here, and then here would be -180. So that's cool. And then I have an option for rotating it. So if you want it to rotate back and forth, you would click that. And then the start angle and end angle in which it rotates at. It's basically how far it turns, if it's going all the way around or if it's just going back and forth. So let's see what a start angle of 0 and end angle of 90 would be if we turn that on. There we go, it's going halfway around, and then it goes back down to the other side. Pretty cool. It's nice and slow because my laptop, she's getting a little old, I must say. She's getting a little old. So I also made an array of presets. I made a scriptable object that basically is all the same parameters that the shooter has in it. And I made it so that I can have an array of multiple different presets so that in the future when I'm building the sort of sequence that the robot will be going through as it shoots, it can maybe switch between different presets. So if I set the size to 3, I'll just put in my 3 different presets that I have here. Okay, so it started with this first one, 5 down, and then I could switch to 1 down at 0.5 speed, so that just shoots 1 down, okay? And then I can switch to the next one, 1 spray rotate. Now we get the one that's spraying and rotating. Really good frame rate with this computer. And yeah, you could switch back and forth basically. So finally, after building the presets array that will allow me to switch between them, I wanted a way to quickly make a preset too. So while I'm fiddling around with the live settings and seeing what looks good and what works, I can basically put in a preset name and click Save Preset, and it'll take whatever the live settings are and create a new preset scriptable object here that I can use in the future. So that it's just a quick and fun, easy way for me to like make these without having to create them manually. So that was super cool to figure out how to do as well. I'm thinking of cleaning up some of this code and maybe making it available for you all. I don't know if it's something you would be interested in. I'm also looking to experiment with different support options so that maybe I can earn a bit of money while I do this to fund the development of the game. Would you guys be interested if I made a Patreon where you can access this kind of stuff? And I would have this bullet hell script, I would have my level generator script, I could have some of my enemy AI for flying enemies and walking enemies. I have a sunset script that I made that adjusts the colors across a gradient of any object you want over time. A lot of cool stuff that I've built that I could make available for you guys. I've also had other ideas like maybe adding art rewards for higher tiers and YouTube shoutouts and special roles in the Game Dev Friends Club Discord server. So like lots of options. I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in or if I should hold off on doing that. But I'm happy to experiment with those kinds of things. And until then, I mean, if you want to support me, I did launch a coffee page, so I'll link that in the description below if you want to just buy me a coffee because you like what I do. I hope this was entertaining and useful for you, and appreciate your patience with my slow computer. And until next time, have a really good life and a good time, and I'll see you as soon as I can.